All right, today we're talking about trust, and I want to share a story from a recent coaching call I had with one of my favorite principals in Northern California. And he's really thinking a lot about trust, about culture building, and this kind of stuff because he has just inherited the leadership of a large, comprehensive high school, Northern California, almost 3,000 students. So we're talking trust quite a bit. And this principle, how do I build it? How do I build it? Well, there's a number of things you can do, but I want to share one thing that you can do. It's not a microwave approach. It's not going to get you results immediately, but if you implement consistently over time, this method will work for you in terms of building trust with your team. Now, I explored trust a lot when I wrote my latest best-selling book, Mastermind: Unlocking Talent Within Every School Leader. And I came across some research by Zinger and Folkman. It's out of 2019. But basically, they said trust boils down to three things, right? Positive relationships. So make sure you're creating space and time to deposit and build relationships. Secondly, it had to do with good judgment. So not making the right decision, right, all the time. So I want to be very clear about that. Good judgment is that people believe you have their best interests at heart. Even when you make a decision, it doesn't pan out the way that you want. And the outcome isn't what you want either. And that's an important leadership lesson to learn because you don't control outcomes. You don't control standardized test results. You don't control attendance or discipline. You control inputs, right? Creating the environment for these things to thrive and hopefully produce the outcomes that you want. And then finally, and this is the one thing I really want you to focus on, consistency, right? So relationships, good judgment, and consistency. Do what you say you'll do. And that's really where the insight was for this principal I was working with. And I thought it was a lot of value in the coaching call. And so I want to share it with you here. So if trust is super duper important to you and you want to build it in your culture, and we know that consistency is a big part of that in doing what you say you'll do you have a feedback loop? Have you built a system just where the things you commit to are identified and written down, right? And shared in a transparent way across the organization? And do you have a way of following up? You have to model this as a leader. And then I would invite my team to do this as well. So let me just give you a very this is so easy, right? Um, and I'm going to also teach this in the terms of a template that we created, me and this principal. So when I asked, because he brought up, hey, I want to have more one-on-one time with my admin team, build their capacity, build our relationships, so on and so forth, right? And that is fabulous, right? I think that's a great investment of his time. One of the big ideas I'm going to share with you here, I said to him, why don't you batch those meetings together? He's got four assistant principals. I asked ideal amount of time, how much you want to spend with them. He thought like 20 minutes would be sufficient. And so four people times 20, that's 80 minutes. It's almost an hour and a half. And so there you go. 90 minutes, that's what batching is. Doing similar tasks all in a row so that you're not like multitasking, you're not switch tasking, you are just focused on the one thing, right? So 90 minutes batch, boom, boom, boom. He does all his admin assistants and he can have even a little bit of margin there, right? And then I said, okay, well, during these talks, like what's important to you? What do you want to make sure come out, right? We want to check in just personally. How's life? How's family? Hobbies, interests, this kind of thing, right? Secondly, just talking about goals, right? His team, like your school, probably a lot of people identify goals. So how often, how frequently, how consistently are you checking in? How are these goals going, right? What are you excited about in terms of what you've achieved? Where are you stuck? Where can I help? So that's a second part. Departmental work was something, right? The APs oversee different departments. How are those things going? School operations as well. And then this is the fifth part, which is the agreements part, right? So after discussing all those issues, are there any next steps that need to happen? What can you agree to do and by when? And write that down, right? So 20 minutes, those were five topics, like four minutes each. The check-in, the goals, the departmental work, school operations, and agreements, right? And that's average. You could go longer or shorter, right? But that's a template. That's a tool that I saw forming right away. And then the thing is, at the next meeting, every other week, you bring into the table. So we agreed that this was going to happen. And if you don't already know, has it been done? Right? How can I help? What's getting in the way? Like having those conversations and some language you can use just so you don't add a bunch of evaluation to it. And that give me an update on what you agreed on, 2 weeks ago. Right. And the people can just share and tell you where they're at. So I think that's really cool. Now, here's sort of high level too. So, are you following me? The template, the tool that's created, the check in, personal check in, goals, departmental work, school operations, agreements, right? And then I said, because I saw it in his eyes, he was going to run to Google, create the form or whatever, Canva, it doesn't matter. But I knew he was going to create it. No, your admin assistant would love to help you out with this, right? So if you're a school leader and you have an admin assistant, number one, I challenged him, tell your admin assistant the vision for these one-on-one meetings, right? Request that she makes the template. Request that she schedules and batches those, that you're not touching the calendar, right? Request that in 2 weeks' time, she creates like a one pager or a brief synopsis of the agreements, right? So a summary of what you talked about, and then new sheets for your 4 assistant principals in this case, and just put it in a folder for you, right? Or you could do it digitally, doesn't matter. Maybe you even invite your admin assistant to those meetings. Now you could be fully there, fully present. The assistant can take notes based on what you're talking about. You can go over them during the agreements part just to make sure you didn't miss anything. And what we've done is we've created a system and a process where this principal just leans into his genius, developing his team and checking in, and the rest of the stuff happens on his behalf. Too many school leaders would do all that stuff. They would schedule with their APs, they would create the template for the one-on-one meetings, they would pull up the old meetings from the past, right? Read them over, get the synopsis of what was happening, and they'd reproduce a new one and print it out or have it online. The point is, he just needs to show up. His team can help make the rest happen. And the cool thing about that is delegation is building capacity. It's building trust because we're consistently checking in. What did you say you'll do? By when? What's the update, right? And given enough time, you will build great trust with your team. Also, this builds more margin into his calendar, right? Many school leaders feel burnt out or overstressed. The research is clear on this. You don't even have to look at research, right? You could just examine your own experience. And so if you feel like, I am pulled way too thin, I'm overworked, overstressed, on the verge of burnout, I'm thinking of going to the assistant principalship, I'm thinking of going back to the classroom, I'm thinking of leaving education altogether, maybe, right? You have to do what's right for you. But I just want to say that I can help. And on December 5th, we're running a pretty epic challenge called the Maximize Your Margin Challenge. And I've never done this before. Usually I create some video content, there's some automated emails and a challenge step, and that's worked. And people have gotten value and they've gotten results and have grown. But this year, in moving into 2023, a big word that I'm thinking out a lot is alignment. And there's a lesson here too for you, Ruckus Maker. How aligned are all the things that happen within your school, right? And I'm thinking in terms of better leaders, better schools, where do we create magic for leaders we support? It's in live experiences, right? It's through networking. It's through shaping the environment where leaders can, share what they need to share without judgment or consequence, to be authentic, to be vulnerable, to ask for help, to run ideas by a trusted group of advisors and get feedback to make their ideas better, right? These are the spaces where we thrive. So our challenge should look exactly like that. It shouldn't be automated emails and kind of independent. So starting December 5th, the Maximize Your Margin Challenge begins, and it's going to be 6 live calls, Monday through Friday. Then we'll have the weekend because we always rest on the weekend. And then Monday will be the 6th call. And it's some really epic content too, right? But the point is, there'll be the live coaching. We'll help you get unstuck because there's that time. There'll be Q&A because we'll be there. There's tools to work through every idea that we teach. And there's the community. So it'll be really fun to network and collaborate with each other. Okay. If you want to run down real quick of what we're talking about, day one, we're talking about goals. Okay. What are they in terms of creating more margin in our life as a leader, why it's important. Day two, we are going to talk about things that get in the way. So that's called the cleanup day. We're going to identify those big problems and do something about them. Day three, we're going to create our life principles, our bumpers, our boundaries, our rules, whatever you want to call it. But it's going to help you say no more often. If you can say no as a leader, you're going to create more margin in your life, right? Plus, people really respect rules and boundaries and this kind of stuff. But you have to do the hard work to actually identify what those are. You can't just say like no for no reason, right? One of my boundaries, for example, or bumpers, is that I'm only going to do things that energize me, that give me energy, right? So if I'm provided with an opportunity, I have to think, is this going to give me energy, right? And if not, then the answer is pretty easy. No. If it's a conversation, I get pitched all the time on the podcast. Do I think I'm going to get energized by that conversation? If not, no. You see what I'm saying? Otherwise, I eliminate, which I'm showing you by saying no, or you delegate, that kind of thing. Okay. Day four, we're going to talk about ideal week. Maybe it's an ideal day. Maybe it's an ideal morning, right? And that's going to be awesome. That's a free thing that we give away on the website anyways. But instead of doing 6 videos by yourself through the Ideal Week course, you'd be with me for an hour and a half. We'll work on it. You could get questions answered. You could run questions by your peers. It's going to be a lot more powerful. Day 5 is just a leverage day. So a lot of tips and tactics that have helped me be more productive and create more margin in my life. Then the weekend, we're going to rest. And listen, day 6, this is epic. I'm going to show you, dear school leader, dear ruckus maker. Are you ready? Are you sitting down? I'm going to show you how to eliminate your email. Okay. Not entirely, because it's a part of the way we work, but I can get you to 20 minutes a day or less. I promise. You got to implement what I teach, but I'm going to show you exactly how to do that. I've done it for myself. I've done it for leaders that I support. I could do it for you. Best of all, this experience totally free, right? So if you go to betterleadersbetterschools.com/margin, then you can join. So there it is on the screen. Betterleadersbetterschools.com/margin. We're getting kicked off December 5th. Totally free challenge experience. A great way to move into 2023. And you can really finish the second half of the school year on your terms. All right. This is Danny, Chief Ruckus Maker at Better Leaders, Better Schools. Bye for now, and go make a ruckus.